All right, ready?
Lisa
Yes.
Martin just texted. She's trying to come in now.
Okay, emitting. Hi, everyone. I've just admitted you all. We're still waiting on a couple more people, just for a few more minutes.
Out of ExxonMobil's annual shareholder meeting today, ticker symbol XOM. Turns out a hedge fund, a relatively small-ish hedge fund called Engine.
Please mute your microphones. Thank you.
Shall we get going today now? Welcome, everybody. Welcome and aloha. My name is Roger Morton, and I'm the Director of Transportation Services for the City and County of Honolulu. We're really excited tonight about our Kailua Complete Streets that program. Our theme tonight is partnership. We're partnering between the city and the state. We're also wanting to partner between the government and you folks, the residents of Kailua. Our goals for Complete Streets are many, but mostly our major overriding goal is safety. Safety for our keiki, safety for our kupuna, safety for everyone who uses the roadways. We want to recognize this very special place on Oahu that we're also proud of, it's Kailua. We want to make Kailua an example of good planning for complete streets, something that we can copy and replicate in other communities on our island. But mostly we're here to listen to you. I'd like to take this time to recognize some of our community leaders that are also participating in this meeting. First, I would say we have over 100 people. So if I miss anybody, my apologies up front. And if I call somebody that is not there, it's just because I can't go through this huge list. But first, I'd like to recognize our council member for the area, Esther Kia Aina. I'd also like to recognize our elected officials, Senator Chris Lee. I see Representative Patrick Branco, Representative Lisa Martin. I think she's probably in the room. Representative Scott Matayoshi. You know, there's very many people that are attending this meeting tonight. And many will have different views, and mostly I'd ask everyone that we want to hear all views. This meeting is a transportation meeting. It's about our Complete Streets project in Kailua. And so if you want to speak about other things, there's probably other forums. We have a lot of people, a lot to get through with on this meeting. And we want to make sure that we hear everybody who can talk about our Complete Streets program. With that, I'd like to turn it over to our Complete Streets Administrator for the City and County of Honolulu, Miss Renee Espial, a proud Kailua resident. Renee, can you start this, talk about our administrative issues?
Yes, for sure. Aloha, good evening. Thank you for joining us. Can we bring up the presentation, please? Okay, so as our director mentioned, we have combined forces this evening with the state, and so we've got a number of different updates on transportation issues, traffic safety to share with you. We have a lot of content, so hope we can get it through it efficiently tonight. Turn to the next slide. I'll go through the agenda real quick. So we're going to have the state open up. They've got some brief project updates for folks that may be interested in, a little bit on the highways, as well as some other non-vehicular projects that are in the works. And then we'll jump over to City and County Complete Streets updates. We have some progress to share with you on some improvements that are coming up. And then we'll take the bulk of this evening to really talk about some proposals and some new ideas that we would like to get your feedback on. After the presentation, we're going to have some breakout rooms. So we have so many people here tonight. We have very limited opportunity for spoken feedback in the main session, but we are going to do smaller breakout rooms around 7:15 or so. And these are the breakout rooms, how we're going to organize people by corridor, by street. So just a little preview so you guys can start to think about which room you may want to go into. But if you are not able to get your feedback on a particular street in tonight, do not worry. We are going to post tonight's presentation and all the proposed plans on our website following tonight's meeting. And we will be taking comments for the next month or so. So lots of opportunity to comment and lots of good dialogue to happen tonight. But first, a few items just on how to run sort of the Zoom meeting and how to participate. We are recording the meeting and we will make that available following the meeting to people who are not able to attend. Everybody was muted upon entry. Please keep your mute on for sound quality. If you are interrupting and trying to speak off topic and stuff, we may be forced to mute you. But let's all just try to be respectful of everyone's time here. We have tried to format this meeting to get as much feedback as possible. But if you really have to talk to us and you don't get the chance, we can certainly be available, tomorrow and the coming weeks if you want to have a one-on-one conversation. Please use the chat function to ask a question, make comments. Some good dialogue we hope will happen over kind of on the side. We talked about the breakout rooms, and then right afterwards we will do some short summaries of those discussions for people who want to hear what some of the other street groups talked about. But if you want to jump off at that point, you're welcome to. That would, after the breakout rooms, that sort of concludes the feedback portion of the meeting. Next slide, please. So for those of you who may be new to Zoom, although some of us sort of live on Zoom these days, there should be a chat button at the bottom of your screen. And there you type your question. So let's do a practice chat real quick, just to make sure everybody's comfortable. So just a warm-up question here. Where is your favorite place to hang out in Kailua? So everybody just, there we go. All right, so you guys get the gist. We certainly see some recurring issues. I saw a question about meeting ID. Umeo, can you look at that technical question in there? I think that's for the call-in. And then the other feature that we're going to be using this evening to get your feedback is we're going to be doing a number of polls. So we have a practice poll here. Carol needs the passcode for the phone. Okay, what's your favorite way to get around Kailua? So let's post the poll up. And we'll give everybody, a few seconds or so, just to kind of get the gist of this. How many attendees do we have right now?
Currently, we have 169.
169, okay. So we're at 104. So we'll leave the polls up generally for probably about a minute or so. I think I'll probably close this one because this is not, too important for feedback on the plan, but let's do, okay, and polling and share results. So lots of walkers, fair amount of bikers, lots of drivers, a few skateboard scooters, bus riders, mobility. We kind of have everything, paddling, not too big on the car sharing here though, of course. Okay, so let's move on. So I would like to introduce Senator Chris Lee. He has been a huge supporter of traffic safety on our island and in our Windward community, and he has some opening remarks he wants to share just to sort of frame some of the issues. So next slide, please. We'll have him do some opening remarks, and then he'll pass it to his colleagues at the state to do some updates on state projects.
Thanks very much. It's been, I think, a long time because of COVID that we've been getting questions about what's happening with our streets and highways and everything else. So really appreciate the opportunity to partner with the city and give everybody a sort of comprehensive update on everything that's out there in the pipeline and what's going on so we can get feedback. But I did want to take a couple of minutes just to step back because it's been a while since we've talked about this in the community in a big way, and give just a little bit of history, the last couple of years of what's been going on and what we've been hearing on the state side. So we can kind of put in context some of the stuff that is currently being looked at. And so, the first thing is things have been obviously changing, especially with COVID and the last few years. And nobody likes being stuck in traffic. So I think a lot of people are seeing their habits change, especially with COVID as a result of working from home, all that stuff. But even before that, we've seen a lot of change in our commuting as well, just generally. And actually, that reminds me, Senator Kihopai is also here. Thanks, Libby, for pointing that out. I think he got missed at the beginning. But basically, the whole Windward team is here, and it's been great to work with everybody. So that said, The other thing driving a lot of the change is, cost of living. And we've heard a lot about this, more than perhaps anything else. It costs roughly on average, depending on who you ask and where you look, somewhere between like $12,000 to $13,000 a year to own a car, to pay for insurance and gas and all that other stuff. And that's hard, especially for our next generation of folks who are growing up, not having the ability to afford that. And so what it's resulted in is some pretty staggering numbers. When I was in high school back in, not to date myself, but back in 1999, our kind of age group in that age bracket, at the time, 99% of those folks had driver's licenses throughout Hawaii, 99%. And today, fast forward, a few years, and there's been roughly a 40% reduction in that age group, our younger age group, who have driver's licenses and who are driving. And it's a result of, this cost of living and not wanting to spend their lives in traffic and all of that. So the question is, what do we do about it? And the other thing, maybe the next slide, that we've been hearing a lot from our community, of course, is this kind of stuff, and these are images of a couple unfortunate incidents just in the last month or two here in Kailua. And this has been, ongoing since I was a kid. I was hit by a car while riding a bike back in the day. And we see that, constantly. And this is something that I think we all want to address. And it's the worst thing to have to field a call from a family who lost their kid, or a family member, or a neighbor, or a friend. And yet here we are, still seeing a lot of that. So the question is, what do we do about it? I think we leave it to the city. They got a lot of good data on crash injuries and all that stuff, but our schools have reached out asking for help over the last few years. We've talked with the principals, talked with PTAs, talked with parents who want to be able to get their kids more safely to school. We've heard from our senior citizens and Kupuna and a whole bunch of organizations. So what we did was we held a bunch of community meetings. This is a shot of one of them that was just before COVID. And throughout 2018 and 2019, held a series of community meetings on traffic safety to ask the community, what are the dangerous roads, what are the dangerous intersections and crossings and all that kind of thing. And then we took also the data, the crash data from people being hit by cars and that sort of thing, and overlaid it on a map to identify what were the most dangerous places in Kailua, and really where should we prioritize and focus to answer this call to basically help stop the kinds of injuries and deaths and make everything better here. And at the same time, we also launched a couple polls. And this was back as early as 2015. We had asked, and we worked with our colleagues at the time, our other representatives and city councilmen on a lot of this. And so it asked, should the state give additional money to install safer bike lanes, sidewalks, and crosswalks? Of course, everyone says yes, that's easy. When money's no object, then it's just a poll. But we also asked another question: should the state prioritize safer bike lanes and crosswalks and all that before other projects? And what was interesting was still, an overwhelming majority said yes. And so at the time, we started putting in a lot of resources into these projects and money into these projects. And this year, we also asked, and these are all just Kailua polls of our local residents, which should be the higher priority: projects that reduce injuries and fatalities for students walking and biking to school, or projects to better accommodate cars and all the other stuff on Kailua roads. Students and dealing with that was still by far and away the majority. Finding a balance was, roughly 37%. But it sort of reaffirmed the direction that I think the community had earlier been reaching out about. So there's a bunch of things the legislature did in the meantime over the last few years. And so what's been happening? On the city side, there was a charter amendment that was put to a vote. People said, yeah, we want safer streets. On the state side, we've heard the same thing, and the legislature over the last 4 or 5 years passed a Complete Streets law, Vision Zero law, which basically says we want to envision a future where we have zero fatalities and severe injuries. And the Department of Transportation is now starting to work on that and implement those kinds of changes. And then this year, we passed a bill which basically says, everyone pays for our roads because the bulk of the funding comes from the federal government and our federal taxes. We pay gas taxes, we pay other things, but ultimately, because everyone pays, everyone should benefit. And right now, interestingly, there's a requirement that only 2% of our federal dollars that we get through the state goes into anything like sidewalks or safer bike lanes and all that other stuff. The vast overwhelming supermajority, not roughly 98%, it might be a little bit less now, maybe like 96%, goes into basically maintaining our highways, repaving the sort of traditional infrastructure that we have. So as of 2020, we've had about 414 projects in the state pipeline for all around the state, and only 10 of them have upgrades, like better sidewalks and bike lanes and that kind of stuff. So what the bill basically says is let's really enhance that and make safety the top priority. Also prioritizing safe routes to schools to address all the concerns around our schools. How do we get students there more safely? And then finally, implementing the Vision Zero engineering to better rethink the way that we design our highways and our roads so that you don't have cars crashing into bicyclists who are crashing into pedestrians and so forth. Separate them, give them their own safe space. And we know this works because other places have done it. And this is a couple headlines from over in Europe where over the course of a couple decades, cities over there pioneered this sort of strategy of through time, through attrition, investing in changing their infrastructure to build it more safely. And this past year, just before COVID, both Oslo and Helsinki made world news by eliminating those kinds of deaths. And so if we figure if they can do it, here in Hawaii, so can we. We are smart enough, we have the resources, and we certainly value our families and everything else, just as other countries do. So we can do this. It's going to take time, and it's going to take a lot of community engagement and effort to get everyone's voices heard, but we know this kind of thing works. So finally, I want to just point out we did have a number of, these are the state investment that we've already put forward, working with our legislative team here on the windward side. Nobody does this stuff alone, so it's thanks to everybody working together on some of this stuff. And I'm not going to go through it, but basically it's a ton of money to do the kinds of improvements to address these concerns that have been raised, both providing some funds to the city as well as to our state highways and everything else. And working together, we still want to, of course, partner with the community to make sure that we continue to see this stuff through, because we know that we can save more lives. And I just want to wrap up by saying, maybe move to the last slide. Yeah, this was every time we see this kind of stuff.
Dave.
This is the kind of reminder that we don't want to see anymore. And this is what we can avoid if we come together as a community. So that's what this whole effort is about. How do we get everybody on board to have their voices heard and figure out what we can do together to help prevent these kinds of situations like this. So say a mahalo, and let me turn it over to our other state colleagues to chat a little bit about and give updates on some of the state projects that are in the pipeline right now, not only for safety, but also the stuff that everyone's been asking about. So let me turn it over to Senator Jarrett Keohokalole.
Yeah, hi, aloha everyone. I'm Jarrett Keohokalole. I share representation of Kailua with Senator Lee. I cover mostly the Mauka neighborhoods of Kailua, everything from the boat dealership, Mauka, Kauai Nui, Kalaheo, all the way into Kaneohe. As Senator Lee, so I'm happy to be with you folks and take input from the community. I know there are, I'm following the chat, there's a lot of discussion going on, and I look forward to talking with some of you folks in the breakout rooms. As Senator Lee said, this has been a long time coming, and I know there's going to be a lively discussion about what we should do, where, and everyone who travels every day on these streets have their own particular perspective about what needs to be done to make things a little better. I do want to know, it's a moving target as well. A lot of for example, a lot of the work that was done before they actually fixed the highway on the Pali, on the Nuuanu side, were safety improvements. And some of that is because the way we ride is changing. There are so many vans and trucks and even those small SUVs on the roads now. They put in those concrete barriers instead of the old, stainless steel barriers in between the highways. So all of that does go into it. I think the representatives, I'm gonna close up here. The representatives are gonna share some of the specific projects, but in the next 2 years, we are planning to have the DOT begin construction finish out Pali Highway, move from Pali along Cam Highway from Castle Junction all the way into Kaneohe, that whole stretch near Pali Highway to Hawaii Memorial and down into Kaneohe near the Burger King and Windward City Shopping Center, and then also Likelike Highway, which are Likelike and Pali are two of the heaviest traversed corridors on the windward side, obviously, because there are so many folks that go back and forth into Honolulu for work. And so that's all I really wanted to share. I appreciate having everyone on. There are a lot of people on the meeting, which I think is great. And thank you folks for joining us. I think I will just toss it to Representative Matayoshi next.
Aloha everyone, thank you for being here. I'm very impressed with how many people show up on every Kailua meeting. Really glad that we're talking about it, but I do represent the neighborhoods of Olomana and Maunawili on the Kailua side as well. So I don't really reach into the Kailua town portion, but you know, we'll see what happens with redistricting. What I wanted to talk about was more of a Kaneohe transportation issue, but you'll know everyone, the Likelike Highway has been in a pretty bad state of disrepair on the town side, going both directions. Me and Senator Keokalole and Representative Kitagawa on the Kaneohe delegation recently sent a letter to DOT asking them to move up the repaving of Likelike Highway, which was projected to, which was currently scheduled for about a year from now, I believe. Good news that Ed Sniffen from the Department of Transportation did agree to move it up. They are currently working on a IDIQ, which is an indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity contract that's set to be signed near the end of the summer. And according to the letter that I was sent about a month ago, they are planning on starting repaving the town side of Likelike Highway kind of closer to the end of the year, maybe in this fall or this winter. And we did also get if anyone drove on Likelike Highway after those heavy rains, there were actual chunks of the highway missing. So big thank you to DOT for getting out there and repairing those missing portions of Likelike Highway that were very, very dangerous. That people, I mean, the pothole was so big that it didn't even bump your car up and down, right? You just went into it, drove another 100 feet, and then kind of came out the other end. So big thank you to DOT for that quick response for that. But we're really hoping for a full repaving sometime pretty soon. And with that, I guess I'll toss the ball over to Representative Bronco.
Hello, everyone. I'm Representative Patrick Bronco. I represent Kailua and Kaneohe Bay, and it's great to see our active community out here and wanting to get informed and wanting to get involved. I just have some quick updates on Pali Highway. As you folks know, many of you drive over the Pali, going to Kailua as well as going to town, and you see that there's some ongoing work going. So what they're doing is they're building like concrete base, and then they're paving over it until November 2021. They're also doing some updates on the side rails and just general improvements. And so we're expecting that should be done in early 2022. Many of you have reached out with your concerns of the construction. So please, if you do, continue to reach out at 586-6480, as well as other concerns relating to Oniava and whatnot. And I can also share it with the team here. And also a sidebar, someone has named theirself Representative Patrick Bronco and is commenting in the chat. So I just kindly request that if you could just change your name to your actual name and not use my name in the chat. Mahalo.
Lisa, do you
Hi.
want to?
Yeah, sorry. I think I'm next. My name is Lisa Martin. I'm the representative of Waimanalo and the part of Kailua that includes Enchanted Lake, Lanikai, Pohakapu, and Kukanono. And in that area, we have, one thing that's going on right now is the Wendy's, which we've seen pop up very quickly. And they did a traffic, survey, a study in January 2020, and the study did not end up recommending that they do anything particular, but astute constituents have emailed me and noted that people coming from Kailua wanting to go to Wendy's will make a left turn into the neighborhood to then make a U-turn there, since you can't make a U-turn at that spot. So I have requested that they have better signage to indicate that there is a U-turn ahead, and also to move the U-turn sign that is a little further ahead so that it's not blocked by the speed limit sign. And I just wanted to point out that once Wendy's is open, if we do have other problems, if the study was over optimistic, we can try to address those problems then. And that this is not the only venue for addressing traffic problems. Ongoing, we can reach out to the state and the city if residents notice an area that is particularly dangerous or in need. Another project in that same area is a resurfacing of Kalaheo Highway, going basically from the junction by Castle Hospital all the way to Olomana Golf Course. And they're not doing anything different, but they are stabilizing the slope, which is a pretty big project. And just redoing the guardrails, pads for bus stops, and the actual surface of the road. And that is expected to be ready for construction, the planning being done October 2022. And that's it.
Thanks, and I'll round it out with the last state project. I've been watching the comments in the chat, and there've been a lot of them about Oniava and the concern about sending people on bikes down it, and looking at a couple people mentioned the marsh path. So there is a state project that is looking at improving the access to the dike path. And, a lot of people use it all the time to run and jog and even commute from one side of town to the other, because it doesn't have to cross all the different intersections that run through Kailua. So there's a project and there's going to be community meetings on this later this year that go into more detail, but basically where the dike path connects into the highway, when you come down Pali into Kailua, it basically ends abruptly, and it's not safe for people to get back into town. So it will be creating that safe connection there so that people can potentially use it more safely and not have to jam up the main intersection coming into Kailua with a ton of folks trying to cross that narrow bridge. So keep an eye out for that. Those meetings will be coming up in the next few months, I think. And with that, wrap up the state project portion and just say mahalo to the city and turn it over to you guys.
Thank you guys so much. It's so wonderful to have support and collaboration at the different levels, and thank you for your funding support as well. Okay, so let's jump into city and county updates on Complete Streets. Complete Streets is a law in the city and county. For those who maybe are less familiar with the concept, it's basically a street design approach that considers all the different roadway users. The law was passed in 2012, and it says basically anytime that we touch the street, we have to at least consider everyone who is using the street. So that's what we're here to do tonight, is to consider, how best we can accommodate people walking, biking, rolling, wheelchairs, bus riders, all of that. So that, say, the next time we come through and repave these streets, we know what changes to implement, and all that kind of messy community process has already been done. The number one goal, of course, is safety, but there's lots of other reasons to do this, environmental, health, etc. But that's sort of the driving reason why we're here tonight. This approach, next slide. This approach was certainly not critical decades ago. When traffic was lighter and slower on Kailua streets. I love this picture. This is the sort of main intersection at town at Oneava, Akule, and Kailua. If you wanted to ride your bike around, you wanted to walk, obviously there was no reason to have dedicated space. But next slide, unfortunately the reality today is a little bit more like this. We've got lots of traffic, very heavy volumes at certain times of the day, high speeds, and you're sort of on your own, sometimes if you're trying to walk or bike on those streets. Next slide. So a major goal for us is really to control traffic speeds. So a major factor in whether people actually survive a crash is how fast that car is going when they are hit. So if you get hit and a car is going 20 miles per hour, there's about a 90% chance that you're going to survive. If that car is going 45 miles per hour, you have about a 10% chance of surviving. This is one of our goals is always to try to slow traffic on our urban streets, because we do make mistakes. We're all human. Things do happen. but we want to make sure that the consequences of those are not always fatal. Next slide. So one of the reasons we have traffic traveling so fast on our streets is that the traffic engineering profession generally designs streets for the peak hour of the day, or maybe the peak 2 hours of the day, you know, in the morning and afternoon. The consequence of that is that we have very large over-designed streets for about 22 hours of the day. And if you're an aggressive driver, this is certainly allows you to speed, right? So these were pictures that were just taken in the middle of the day. And I think sort of highlights that delicate balance that really we have to find between accommodating peak hour traffic, but also having streets that work for our communities all of the time. Next slide. You know, this is of course particularly concerning for our kupuna, who often rely on walking and the bus to get around. We have the unfortunate distinction of actually having the worst pedestrian fatality rate in the country. We are not the worst overall for pedestrians, but we are the worst for seniors. And this is just a very sad fact. Next slide, please. Sadly, this crash pattern isn't great for other vulnerable roadway users as well. This is an extremely unscientific survey that I had a friend of mine run with 3 of her classes at Kalaheo High School. Basically half of kids have been hit by a car or know someone very well who's been hit by a car. So we have about half of Kailua youth really having some kind of traumatic experience with traffic. As a new mom who lives in Kailua, I find this both completely terrifying and just very sad that this is, you know, sort of a status quo that we have in our community. Next slide. You know, this is a crash map that shows, you know, different crash types, vehicular, bicyclist, pedestrian. These are just reported crashes, of course. These are when EMS is called, when an ambulance is called to the scene. But of course, we all know that this stuff happens and never gets reported. So we actually have many more incidents than this. You can see it's really scattered all throughout our community, but as we show on the next 2 slides, when we talk about pedestrians and bicyclists, we actually do have certain areas that are particularly problematic and where these problems are concentrated. So you can see with the pedestrian crashes, really concentrated sort of in the downtown Kailua area. There's a few on Kailua Road, Ku'ule Road as well, and particularly that Ku'ule Oneava Kailua intersection is pretty bad. For the bicycle collisions, a little bit different pattern. We certainly are seeing major concentrations on Ku'ule Road. That's an area where we see lots of bicyclists today riding against traffic, riding on the sidewalk, really trying to connect, I think, between the beach and the urban core. And we are going to be proposing some changes, particularly Ku'ule Road tonight as well. Hamakua, this data predates our bike lane there, and you can see actually was a number of bicycle crashes on Hamakua as well. Okay, so that brings us to our next poll. So we want to ask you guys, okay, you've seen the data, but what is your experience out on the streets? You know, what street do you find most challenging to cross on foot? So we've put a few in here. If there's something else that comes to mind, please feel free to note it in the chat. Romero, can you launch the poll question? Okay, the poll should be open.
Okay, we have about halfway, probably another couple seconds. 10 more seconds.
Oh. Okay, so let's close this. I'm gonna stop and share. Oh, is it up?
Yes, it should be up.
So Oneava, okay, Oneava Street coming in as the unfortunate winner. Kailua Road followed closely. Kalaheo Akule, I also saw a lot of chat around Keolu. I know I live in Channel Lake, so I could second that. Hahani, I think, came up, Hamakua. So lots of challenges. We're not going to address all of the streets in Kailua tonight. I know we have a lot of issues, but hopefully we're starting to take a good chunk out of some of these issues. So let's move to the next poll. Okay, so for those of you maybe who do ride a bicycle, excuse me, what street do you find most challenging? And I'd probably couple that with which street would you like to ride on the most that you find most challenging? So if you have a hard time riding on Oneava, but you don't want to ride on Oneava, maybe don't pick that one. Okay, I think we can close it in a, okay, I think we can close. And Kalaheo Avenue is coming up #1. I actually almost died trying to bike on Kalaheo Avenue. So if I could have voted, I probably would have voted for that as well. Kailua Road, Kule, Oneava, all sort of getting concerns, as well as, sorry, there was one in the chat that I missed, but we'll capture that for sure. Okay, thank you, everyone. All right, so moving on. Another issue in Kailua, and to be honest, across our island in older communities that we really deal with is missing sidewalks. We are working on the first ever pedestrian plan to prioritize these walkways because we've got about 900 miles of missing sidewalks island-wide, and the cost to build them all is billions of dollars. So we've gone through an effort to prioritize where the most important ones are, and you can see those in red on the map here. And they really do line up quite well with many of the project corridors that we're looking at tonight. Next slide. You know, I don't think this is a terribly uncommon sight, unfortunately, to see, you know, strollers, kids, bikes, you know, really trying to find a dedicated space and trying to navigate through even the center of our town. This is right on Kailua Road. Next slide. The other topic that we'll really be discussing tonight and putting forward some proposals to you guys is where to put proposed bike lanes. We look at a number of things. We look at crash history, connections to schools, parks and beaches and commercial areas. And we also have an adopted bike plan for our island that we use to base that on. But we are interested in your feedback. Obviously, all of these projects require trade-offs, and so we're trying to find that balance between traffic flow and bicycle connectivity. Next slide. I have put some smiley faces on these guys to try to preserve their identities as minors, but you know, this is why we are really motivated to provide dedicated space for bikes in Kailua. Getting around by bike really gives our youth the ability to be independent and to enjoy the kind of childhood that maybe previous generations had sort of cherished. But today, of course, you all know traffic is just very crazy out there. And these guys, they love biking around, they love going to 7-Eleven, but they are severely limited in the places that they can get to, you know, primarily up and down Kainalu. Next slide. So in that same poll where I asked a bunch of Kalaheo high school kids, you know, sort of what they felt about different traffic issues, you know, it's not surprising to see that they overwhelmingly support new bike lanes. As I think the senator mentioned, you know, a lot of them don't have driver's licenses today. And this is actually one of their main ways to get around. Next slide. What's also exciting is that we're learning that high quality protected bikeways also have other spillover benefits. They're not just good for bikers. This is a crash analysis of the King Street Bikeway in town before and after installation in 2014. And this shows the pedestrian crashes have actually been cut in half since we put in the bike lane. We did really nothing to improve pedestrian safety, but the bike lane alone has done a number of things. It's gotten bikes off the sidewalk. It's made turning vehicles turn with more caution, and it has improved visibility as well as shortened the number of lanes that pedestrians have to cross. So that really brings us to the proposals for tonight. We're really focused on improving the major corridors in Kailua. I know there are lots of issues on residential streets, you know, throughout our communities, but we're really focused tonight on sort of the major corridors. But before we get to the proposals, I do want to give you guys a few updates on city projects that will be constructed soon along these streets. So let me introduce Kelly Akasaki with our transportation department to walk through a couple of these.
Hello, my name is Kelly Akasaki and I am with the Traffic Engineering Division. I'm going to be going over real quickly some of the construction projects that are going to come up in the area. This first area, as a lot of you guys know, is the Kalapawa Market, Kailua, and Kalaheo Avenue. This picture here is before we did the improvements in 2018. And at that time, when Kailua's beach was named #1 in the world, we've heard a lot of complaints from the Lanikai community, especially, and the community members. It was Councilmember Ikaika Anderson at that time, where traffic was just backed up every weekend, every 3-day holiday. They've had policemen out there that would have to direct the traffic because of the left turns that had to wait in front of the Kalapawa Market. So this is what the traffic pattern was like before. Next slide, please. This is what we put in, what we proposed to put in as a phase 1. And the phase 1 was only a pilot project to see if the new traffic patterns would help alleviate some of that traffic that backs up into Lanikai. And since 2018 to before COVID started, the traffic was greatly improved because of this new triangle about or roundabout pattern that we put in. However, it was only a pilot project and it was really simple asphalt to the point where if it didn't work, we would go back to the original plan. But now that our traffic studies have agreed that it does work and it does alleviate some of the traffic, we are moving forward and proceeding to our phase 2. Next slide, please, which will hardscape a lot of these improvements and slow down the traffic even more. When we did the pilot project, which was the phase 1, we had to use all of the existing roadways there, which did not have a lot of deflection, did not really slow people down getting into the circles. And this phase 2 will help us to still slow down traffic even more, as well as improve a lot of the sidewalk areas in the area. The biggest project that we are trying to fix with this phase 2 also is to improve a lot of the drainage in the area. There are floodings that happen closer to the market, as well as on approach to the circle when you are headed towards Island Snow. So the project will include pavers and a little more drainage improvements so that the flooding doesn't occur in the sidewalk areas. Next slide, please. So right now, as I'm sure a lot of you all know, Board of Water Supply is currently in front of the market and they are installing a new water line. So their project is supposed to run until August of this year. And then we will be having HECO come in to relocate 3 poles right after them, September. And then phase 2 construction will start right after that, hopefully by the end of this year. Our construction time is about 620 working days. Next slide, please. The second project that I wanted to talk to you about that DTS will be starting soon is to relocate one of the crosswalks along Kailua Road. Right now, the crosswalk is fronting the old Macy's. And at that time, we had a lot of concerns that the trees were causing too much of a shadow and that the lighting was not the best in that area. And once they built out, Whole Foods, CPK, a lot of the peds cross in this area anyway to get across to the Time side. So what we're proposing here is to relocate the crosswalk, add in a break in the median, and put in what is called a rectangular rapid flashing beacon. But pretty much what it is a pedestrian activated crossing light. So when the pedestrian wants to cross, similar to this picture here, they push a button, the lights wigwag back and forth to let the motorist know that a pedestrian is waiting to cross in that area. So we will be starting this project middle of June this year. And this contract time for this project is 150 calendar days. Next slide, please. And then the last project that I wanted to bring up was one that also the community brings up. It's Aolike Akule Road. So this is right by McDonald's, where the senior home is on the backside of Aolike. We have a lot of pets that cross there, a lot of kupuna, a lot of keiki, and they have always asked for a traffic signal. So the traffic signal is currently in design, and we want to let everyone know that construction is anticipated to start in early 2022. And that is the last project that we have ongoing in the area in the next couple months. Next slide, please.
Thanks, Kelly. Okay, on to the new ideas. Okay, so we need your feedback. We brought you guys here because we value your opinions. We're going to present some preliminary concepts that have been developed in response to all the concerns that we've shared with you tonight. We cannot do all of these improvements at once, so we really need your feedback to prioritize the improvements and to prioritize limited funding. Generally, we are not taking any right away. There's no land acquisition here. We're really working within the roadway boundaries as they are set. Of course, we all know there are competing interests for any limited resource, including roadway space. So really our goal is to find that balance between providing more dedicated space for people walking and biking, safer streets, and the need to move traffic efficiently. As I mentioned before, we will probably implement a lot of these improvements in conjunction with future repaving projects, but we do have opportunities for more immediate interventions for smaller projects or lower cost improvements. Next slide. So we have done a number of outreach activities over the last several years, crash analysis, traffic engineering models to come up with the proposed concepts, as well as met with lots of people in the community. The schools, being first and foremost, our emergency service department, Alexander and Baldwin, Parks Department, and so on. These are just, a couple of the ideas that we got. These were put on the postcard that you guys got, but we will also share additional feedback as we walk through the plans for individual streets. There's sort of 3 different ways we can deliver projects. The shortest, cheapest, quickest way is what we call quick build improvements. These are some examples. The one on the left is curb extensions we did actually with the community painting out in Eva Beach. And then the one on the right shows sort of a pop-up median with modular materials done at very low cost. Next slide. Other improvements can be done with repaving with just striping, right? So you can actually achieve a whole lot with just striping. And we can do those also as standalone projects within the paved area, sort of between the 2 curbs. And then other improvements like sidewalks, next slide, and such actually do require a full capital project. Sidewalks, of course, are very popular, but they're also very expensive. They require concrete, utility relocation, money, and time. It doesn't mean they're not important. It just means, you know, we have to consider that as we come up with a strategy for moving ahead. And then finally, before I pass it off to our consultant team, you know, we really are focused tonight primarily on the transportation function of our streets, but the Complete Streets program does consider other uses of the street as well, including ecological functions. We're always looking for opportunities to plant more street trees, and we have been experimenting lately with a lot of different permeable pavers and ways to make our urban street trees much happier, such as this picture on the right, where the roots can grow below the sidewalk. So we're always looking to pilot those sort of strategies and have that opportunity before us. So jumping into the tools, I'm going to present just this idea that you'll see come up time and again tonight, the idea of sort of a two-way protected bikeway or a two-way shared use path. This is a couple examples. This also shows how you can protect them differently using low curbs or taller delineators, you know, depending on what aesthetic we're going for. But these are proliferating in town, and as I mentioned before, they have a number of benefits that come with them to bikers and pedestrians and even for driver safety. Next slide. What we're really trying to achieve here is to attract the folks that are not comfortable riding bicycles in traffic, right? So we know there's about, I don't know, 10 to 15% of people who are pretty comfortable just out there, bike lanes or not, riding. But about half of us want to bike, but are probably scared as heck to get out on the street, particularly if we have our kids with us. These are the kind of facilities that really appeal to them. So now let me turn it over to Saurabh Rashid, our traffic engineer on the project, to explain some additional tools we'll be looking at tonight. And then Lindsay is our civil engineer on the project, will walk us through the details of the plan. And Umeo, who I have not introduced, will continue to help us with the polling.
Great, thanks, Renee. So wanted to provide a little bit of context in terms of how the design of different types of roadway sections and intersections really results in a higher propensity for crashes or more severe crashes. And while there's some variation amongst the type of roadway or the location, there's some common crash factors which can include one or more of the following. It's where you have posted speed limits of over 30 miles an hour, or where people are traveling much faster. 4 or more travel lanes, so usually 2 in each direction. Turning movement conflicts, like the graphic on the right-hand side of the slide shows here, at a signalized intersection, or a lack of pedestrian designated crosswalks or other pedestrian safety enhancements. So it doesn't matter whether you're crossing at a mid-block location or an intersection, crossing more than 2 travel lanes without some sort of refuge or protection can be hazardous. Next slide, please. And so one of the main reasons for this problem is that what we have is referred to as a multi-lane or multiple threat situation. So this occurs where there are 2 travel lanes in one direction. One vehicle stops for a pedestrian who leaves the curb. You can see that in this photo here. And unfortunately, the driver in the car, kind of in the inside lane, is not able to see the pedestrians until it's too late. And so what we need in this type of situation are other treatments to help avoid a potentially tragic situation. And one of the things I wanted to point out is some of the schemes you're going to be seeing tonight, especially on Oniava Street, where we have this multiple lane situation at an unsignalized intersection in the commercial section of the street. If we're not able to provide either a pedestrian refuge or other treatments, then this crosswalk would actually have to be removed. Next slide, please. So one way, there's a couple ways we can enhance safety. One way is to make pedestrians more visible by putting them closer to the driver's view, but in a more protected situation, or by installing a visual warning light. So refuge areas or crossing islands, like the example in the bottom left there on Kailua Road, allow people to cross traffic so they only have to wait for a gap in one direction, then they can wait for a gap in another. That's a benefit to both traffic on the road, the vehicles, as well as the pedestrians. And they can also be designed in such a way that a pedestrian is sort of aligned and approaching traffic more, which then lets them figure out whether it's okay to cross or not at that point. Kelly already touched on the photo in the bottom right, which is the RRFB rectangular rapid flashing beacon. It's a warning light that's activated by the pedestrian. This is actually better for drivers than a regular traffic signal because they only have to wait for the pedestrian to kind of clear the crosswalk, and then they're able to proceed without waiting for a light to cycle through. And these treatments are both very effective in reducing crashes, essentially cutting them in half. Next slide, please. So another improvement treatment that we're looking at is what's known as a roadway diet. And this enhances both safety and traffic operations. So what it involves is a conversion of a 4-lane section to a 3-lane section. And we basically install a two-way center left turn lane in the center, as this example shows on Kamehameha 4 Road in Kalihi. There are also some other examples on the island, Lehua Avenue in Pearl City, Hamakua, I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with in Kailua. And repurposing the existing space, as Renee talked about, it really does several things. Ultimately, it improves the safety of the street. It eliminates those multiple threat crashes that I talked about. We can actually reduce crashes by somewhere between 19 and 47% is the reduction factor for this type of treatment. It improves traffic operations. It eliminates the kind of the quick changes in the slalom activity that people make, trying to avoid people in the left turn lane. Or in the inside lane, making a left turn. So it maintains through traffic flow better in the through lanes. It also better designates right of way for all of the users within the street. It reduces speeding, and it also has the benefit of improving access to local businesses by making it easier to get into and out of the local driveways. So this is a graphic similar to the one that Renee presented before. This is specific to Kamehameha 4 Road again. These are the EMS attended crashes, and there was an over 60% reduction in crashes after this improvement was implemented. Next slide, please. So curb extensions are another way to get pedestrians more visible to drivers at the intersections. They also moderate the turning speed of vehicles, which is really important in terms of safety. Renee touched on the travel speed question earlier. And it also reduces the amount of time that pedestrians, people walking, are exposed to traffic and vehicles by shortening the pedestrian crossing distance. These can also be opportunities to beautify the community, either through art or through landscaping treatments. And their quantified safety benefit reduces all crashes by 30% at locations where they're implemented. Next slide, please. When you get a lot of people crossing at an intersection during a concentrated time, one method of improving safety and reducing conflicts between vehicles and pedestrians is to implement what's known as an all-way pedestrian only phase, or sometimes referred to as a pedestrian scramble. And so what this does is during the walk phase, all of the movements can be made at the same time. So pedestrians can cross it in any direction, do it directly. Then when the signal gives you a don't walk indication, then all of the traffic movements are able to proceed and people don't have to wait for pedestrians to cross the intersection. This is an example at Hahani where people making a left to go basically in the Mokapu direction on the street on Kailua Road would not have to do that in this particular case. And it actually works well at small intersections when the crossing distance is short and therefore the pedestrian phase is short. Next slide, please. So last one on kind of improvement concepts. This is a roundabout. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with this, but I think it's important to touch on the benefits. It benefits both, again, drivers and pedestrians compared to traffic signals or always stop control. You can see the nearly 80% reduction in severe crashes when you convert a signal to a roundabout. You have reduced vehicle delay. Basically, as a driver, you're waiting for either a pedestrian to cross or for vehicles to circulate within the roundabout. Other than that, traffic continues to flow, but it continues to flow at a safe speed. And the benefit for pedestrians, of course, is in most cases, they only have to cross one lane at a time, standing in the refuge area. And they can also be a community benefit by being a gateway feature.
All right. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so we'll move now to the proposed improvements. I'm Lindsay Nakashima. I'm with Belt Collins, the consultant working for DTS. Remember, this is still concept plans. Changes can be still made with community input. And as we move through these plans, you'll have a chance to participate with our polling questions. Oniava Street will be the first one we'll discuss, and I'll move from the north side at Mokapu Boulevard to the south end by Akule. Okay. The comments we received for this section centered around providing better access for the high school students and having more sidewalks. Within this safe routes to school section of Oniava, the bike lanes were added on both sides, going to and into and out of Kailua. Turn lanes heading north were retained, and with signal timing adjustments, there could be even less of a delay sitting at this light during the afternoon peak hour. There were also many comments to continue the sidewalk over here. It was noted that one comment we received was, it is difficult to push a stroller along this section of Oniava Street. As we continued on Oniava Street towards the south, there's still within the safe routes to school zone. So we're continuing the sidewalks here. The photo below is showing that there is no sidewalk. It pretty much is a curb and some grassing, and definitely some mailboxes in the way. Also within this section, we continued the bike lane, and that goes to Kaha Street, which will eventually take you to the neighborhood park. Oniava through the commercial section, there were definitely concerns brought up about pedestrian crossings. So like Saurabh said earlier, raised pedestrian crossings are a concern, and this is what a raised pedestrian median would look like at Wailepo, and another one here in front of the Zippies. Raised pedestrian crossings were added at all these intersections that do not have signals. The city cannot put back the crosswalk, like you said, at these unsignalized intersections without the median. So in order to increase the vehicular flow, we did instead put left turn pockets. And that allows for vehicles to wait for gaps and provide continuous flow in the through lanes. Additionally, comments also included that it was a scary place for bicyclists to ride. So with this wider street section through Oniava, we added the bike lanes on both sides. Safety is our top priority for all crosswalks. This photo here is Oniava and Wailepo Street, and the keiki here is attempting to cross 3 lanes of travel. We know they're using it, so let's try and figure out a way to make it safer for all to cross. The photo here, you guys did see in the postcards and flyers that were sent out. We are looking north, and Zippies is over here on the right. And at this proposed intersection, the pedestrian island could look like this. It provides a refuge space so that pedestrians can check the vehicles in one direction at a time, like Saurabh was saying. So with the additional signage as well, it's easier to see the crosswalk for vehicles. We've already gotten some very good feedback since putting out this photo, and we do hear your comments. So we know that there's issues with the bus transit and that we need to make improvements to the sidewalks. So if you're interested in Oniava, please attend one of the breakout room sessions and we can discuss this further. We'll start with our first poll. Do you support upgrading sidewalks along the residential portion of Oniava Street? See, about half of you have already answered. We'll give it a couple more seconds. All right, can we share that? 58% like it, good. And 24% mostly like it, but we could use some adjustments. So hopefully we're running in the right direction here. Our next poll. Do you support the proposed left turn lanes along the commercial portion of Oniava Street? Okay, looks like we got most of the polls in. Left turn pockets. Mostly like, some do not like, maybe 20% do not like. Okay. Noted. Another question. Do you support the proposed bike lanes along the commercial portion of Oniava? Oh, it's neck and neck right now, I see. It's gonna be a tight one. Let's see, 70% voted. A few more votes coming in. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, what is the show? What is it showing? Ooh, 44% do not like, 42% like, and 12% mostly like, but need some adjustments. So thank you for that input. It's very helpful to us. And then the last question for Oniava we have is, do you support the new pedestrian crossing islands to keep the uncontrolled marked crosswalks on the multi-lane section of Oniava Street? All right, we're almost there. Only a few more votes. Oh, okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There we go. 56% like it, 22% mostly like it, about 20% don't like it. Again, thank you. We'll move on now to the Kailua Bike Network and Superblock, what we're calling the Superblock. So this section of improvements is the Superblock, and it encircles the two schools, Kailua Elementary, Kailua Intermediate, the District Park, and it will go through town as well, and it will connect to all the way down to the beach and the Kalaheo Avenue one as well, and it will continue through all of Kulile. This is going to be a protected bike lane in the busiest areas in Kailua, connecting the schools, businesses, and beach access. Okay. Now we're moving into Kailua Road. So observations and data counts that we got along Kailua Road confirm there are many pedestrians crossing in front of Whole Foods. These improvements include providing a crossing beacon here, as well as the other one Kelly mentioned earlier, that would be over here, to provide improved visibility for drivers at the businesses along the street. Parking was removed, but it does provide visibility as you're coming in and out of these driveways to see down the street. The Superblock again is 2-directional, so the bikes can go in either direction. There's still sidewalks as well, will remain. And as we continue to collect data, DTS is considering limiting left turns as a safety precaution going into these Makai side businesses. This is because they would have to cross 2 lanes of traffic and figure out how to navigate the two-way bicycle lanes as well. As we continue down Kailua Road, we're coming up to this very busy intersection, Mahani Street. I personally spoke with some businesses in the area, and they've mentioned seeing many close calls here and crashes. So based on the numbers of pedestrians that we're seeing, we're proposing this pedestrian scramble or the all-way pedestrian phase. And it's only for pedestrians so that they can cross at their own time, and then vehicles can cross at their own time. So this is a safety for all modes. Other comments that we got for this area included adding the sidewalks here and maintaining the vehicular movements, so all the turning movements. Some of you folks have probably seen this photomorph as well, but this is the Hahani Street intersection. And to demonstrate what it could look like, again, this is just a concept. We can change the colors, we can change the pavement material. It is just a concept, just to be able to show you what it could look like. It doesn't have to look like Waikiki. What needs to be emphasized here is that it greatly improves safety. You can get your pedestrians to come across in one movement instead of trying to make maybe 2 or 3 different crossings to get to where they want to go. And the numbers of pedestrians that you do see AM peak hour on the weekdays and weekends are here. The numbers show we have the numbers to impede vehicular flow. So providing this option is a great way to separate those different modes. Okay, we need your feedback again. So let's go to our polling question. How do you like the proposed sidewalk and path improvements along Kailua Road? Okay, I think we can post it. Most of you like it. 25 mostly like, 20% don't like. Okay. How do you guys feel about the changes proposed at the Hahani Street intersection? Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, what did we come up with? Okay, 50% like it. Could use some improvements with 20%. 21% do not like. We'll continue down Kailua Road, where it veers Makai. Comments received here noted safety concerns for pedestrians and bicyclists that are in vehicular spaces. So at the Wana'au Road intersection, the triangular island over here was enlarged, and the protected two-way shared use path does continue all the way down to South Kalaheo Avenue and connects to the new Kalapawa roundabout improvements noted earlier by Kelly. Now I'll be moving to Ku'ule Road. So comments we received from Ku'ule Road include safety concerns about crossing the street. As you can see right here, this is a very long crosswalk to get to the other side. We had other comments about there's no bike lanes, or the bike lanes, people are riding in the wrong direction. We also have comments about missing sidewalks. Okay. The plans here for Ku'ule Road. So with Ku'ule Road, this is also a safe routes to school corridor. We looked at ways to improve safety, reduce conflicts, and designate spaces for all the modes since we have the space. So here we have some shorter pedestrian crossings with curb extensions, the two-way protected bicycle lanes, and we heard maintaining street parking was important for the small businesses, so those stayed over here. We also did manage to keep the ones on this side as well. And as was reported earlier, this Aolike Street will be signalized, and that's planned for 2022. And vehicular turning lanes were mostly maintained right here at Oniava. So we still have the double lefts here, the through and the right only. And again, over here, left throughs. As we head down Akule, continue, we will see that this is where we're proposing the 4 lanes to 3 lanes to reduce potential conflicts. And so we're also looking at continuing that sidewalk in front of 7-Eleven, keeping the protected bike lane in front of the school, in front of the library, the police station, and the fire station. So now we're going to ask you again for your input. So do you support the proposed school zone safety improvements on Ku'ule Road? Okay, it looks like most have voted. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. 56% like it, 24 mostly like, 18 don't like. I'm gonna move now to South Kainalu Drive. Just this section fronting the actually the fire station, the district park, and intermediate school.
Hey, Lindsay, sorry to interrupt. There's some people are having a little hard time following, so just point out some landmarks if you can.
So South Kainalu Drive, what we heard comments for this section including making it safer for the kids. There's a lot of intermediate school kids who do ride their bicycles to school. We also heard that there's speeding in vehicles, driving in the wide shoulder, and that bicyclists are riding in the wrong direction. So for South Kainalu Drive, this side of the street right now over here is the intermediate school. And this is Ku'uhale Street. So in order to address these safety concerns, the two-way protected bicycle or shared use path in this case will be on the Mauka side, same side as the intermediate school. The travel lanes over here were reduced to 10 feet and the shoulder was reduced to 3 feet. The improvements here do require a little bit more asphalt to be poured, so it's going to be widened on the shared use path side. How do you feel about providing this two-way shared use path on South Kainalu Drive next to the park and the intermediate school? So yeah, choices are like it, mostly like, but need some improvements, don't care, or you just don't like it. Let's keep the existing protected bike or the unprotected bike lanes. Right. Most people voted. 50% like it. 40% or 28% mostly like it. And 20% still like the existing condition. Thank you. So now we'll move on to this short segment of Kailua Road. And that would be between Hamakua and Oniava over here. So to orient you guys, Hamakua is on this side over here. Kailua and the Oniava intersection is on this side, and Ku'ule is over here on this side. Okay, so observations and comments that we saw for this area included that it's a dangerous place to cross the street. It's hard to navigate the left turns through this unsignalized area, that more cars are wanting to turn left, actually, onto Hamakua Drive, and that buses kind of stop and go along both sides of the street over here. So what we've done is we've added curb extensions to make shorter crossing distances for the peds. We have also checked, added the bike lanes. So the bike lanes will continue up through here, and they will connect to the Hamakua Drive ones as well over here. And we have gotten comments from Kailua residents on the very creative ways that people are instead trying to make this turn. Instead, they're coming either straight across or coming off of Pu'unui Street. So we are looking at ways to make this better and not bypassing this left turn. So thank you for those comments. Another one of the short segments here is Kihopai Street. So to orient you again here, Oniava Street on the right-hand side, Po'olai in the middle, and Kainehe here. So this area, we're just proposing to make the curb extensions to make the crossing shorter. And we're retaining the parking since we know that's important. And instead it will have sharo for bike lanes, or sharos instead in the roadway section. Another area we heard some comments on and we just wanted to bring up real quick was that the area in front of the Aikahi shopping center. Okay, so Makapu Road is over here, the Aikahi Park shopping center is on this side. We did hear concerns that there's missing sidewalks and whatnot. So on this plan, we're showing in purple the existing sidewalks, and that the pinks will be new, and as well as the green over here on this side. This, as a complete streets, is being looked at. It's just under the Kaneohe Complete Streets road sections instead. So to continue from there, we'll go for North Kalaheo Avenue to South Kalaheo Avenue, and starting out here at Mokapu Boulevard. So to give you an overview, this is what it looks like now. And this is the proposed single lane roundabout, because we have such a large right of way. So the proposed improvements will start here at Mokapu Boulevard and include this roundabout instead of a signal. This could help improve flow, reduce wait times, and lessen the number of potential conflicts with all modes of transportation. Comments received for this intersection said that there's congestion, long waits, and the intersection is skewed in a way that it's not easy to see which direction, or the cars that are coming down Mokapu. So, let's show it again. Comments we heard. So through the main corridor, comments received for Kalaheo, included wanting better safety for walkers and runners on the Makai side, better riding conditions for the kids in the shoulder, and then figuring out what to do. There's definitely narrow sections And this puts the pedestrians very close to those speeding vehicles. Other comments received included speeding on the straight sections, and then of course, not enough crosswalks to the beach access and alleys. So we did take a poll a while back. I'm not sure if anybody on the call has done this, but we wanted to see what types of improvements you would be interested in seeing. So we proposed two alternates. One was a bike route with enhanced sidewalks for the Kalaheo section. And then the other alternate was the two-way protected bicycles or shared use path on the Makai side. And at that time, you guys had answered, about 122 of you had answered and preferred this proposed alternate 2 section, which is what we are proposing. So what does that look like? Here's the two-way protected bicycle or shared use path on the Makai side. We are looking at as well speed reductions. So bringing this down from 30 to 25, and then making sure that we added crosswalk markings for the beach access areas. Where North Kalaheo Avenue has limited road section, the South Kalaheo Avenue section is a little wider, and there are some existing trees, mostly palms that we saw. The Makai side proposed improvements made adjustments for these palms, but ultimately not all of them can be kept. What we plan to do instead is to mitigate these tree impacts would be to provide street trees, offsite in other areas. So they won't be lost. They could be put just not in the roadway section. They could be put back in the parks. Okay. Another polling question. Do you support providing the two-way protected shared use facility to improve safety for biking and jogging on the Makai side of Kalaheo Avenue? Okay, looks like most have responded. And here we go, 50%. Yes, 27% mostly. We could do some adjustments, and then 20% no. One more question. Do you support removal of some trees within the right-of-way to provide space for pedestrian improvements? Yes, yes, and if trees can be replaced off-site, don't care, or no, not at all. Keep the trees. All right. 5, 4, 3, 2. Okay. Let's see. Mostly yes, and yes if they're replaced. Okay. 24% still want to keep the trees as is. Okay. Thank you. Our next section moves on to Mokulua Drive. So it was very apparent that this route to Lanikai is popular for pedestrians and bicyclists. So while the section is narrow, we are trying to propose improvements to widen the Makai side as much as we can on the shared use path, leave it on that side, and a bike lane crossing over here to get to the bike lane that is already on Kalapawa Drive. All right, I think we've made it through most of the plans, and now we'd like to go and figure out which safety improvements you think should be prioritized. So we've put a bunch of the improvements here. You can pick more than one, and it'll start with Kalaheo, move to Kailua Road school improvements, Kailua Road pedestrian improvements, Kailua Road bikeway improvements, South Kainalu, the two-way shared use path, Oniava in the residential section, doing some sidewalks, Oniava, the commercial area, doing safety improvements, Kalaheo Avenue, Mokapu Boulevard, the roundabout, Mokulua Drive shared use path widening, or the Kihopai curb extensions and crosswalks. So please go ahead and vote. You can pick more than one. You can pick one, you can pick 5, you can pick all of them, you can pick 9. See, Kalaheo's. Oh, Oniava's coming up. Oh, I see some Ku'ule. Almost half of you voted. Still waiting on a few more. Votes still are coming in. Keep voting, it's fine. Okay, I think we're close. There we go. What did we come up with? Oh, there was Kailua Road pedestrian crossing improvements came out top. But there's definitely a lot that you guys in the 40% range here. Ku'ule, Oniava, Kalaheo. Okay. All right, thank you. Thanks for bearing with us. I know it's been about an hour and a half already, but we are going to move now to our breakout rooms. So the breakout room agenda is this. We're going to learn more about the proposed plan. So you'll have a leader in there from DTS or a consultant, and we can go through the plans in more detail. You can provide additional feedback. We're going to try and split it up into 5 or 6 smaller groups. They, again, are organized by street. So please choose one breakout room to go to. We'll try to do this within, we're already hitting 7:30. So maybe it will have to be 20 minutes, Renee. And at the end, we'll come back together.
Yeah, let's try to do 30, and then we can, instead of doing the report back, we'll just summarize online.
Okay.
I'd rather have more time for the discussion.
Okay. So if you're able and willing to go to the breakout rooms, we'd like your comments. Okay, so breakout rooms will be by street again. The first one, room 1, Kailua Road, this yellow section. Ku'ule Road will be the second room. It also does include this small portion of Kailua from Hamakua to Oniava. The third room is all of South Kalaheo Avenue, and that includes the Kalapawa Roundabout. The fourth one is Oniava Street. The fifth one will be South Kainalu Drive, Mokulua Drive, and Kihopai Street, since those are smaller. The sixth room will be if you have any questions for the state on the DOT projects. And then we may need the extra room in case there's enough people that are maybe overcrowding one room. So we'll let you know, but if you could please pick a room. The way that you'll do that is if you look down on your Zoom, you'll see this breakout rooms and you can pick one to join. So we'll see you everyone again in half an hour. There will be a 1 minute warning to bring everybody back to the main room.
Okay, if you have not chosen a breakout room, there's an option on the bottom of your screen that says breakout rooms, and you can choose which one you want to be assigned to. If not, please let me know which room you would like to be in.
I'm not seeing an option for me. I don't know if it's because I'm on the phone.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that option at the bottom of my screen, but I'd like to go to the Oniava.
Okay. Are you the 3875172?
No, 594-3582.
4.
Ashlyn Williams.
Jocelyn.
Ashlyn, ASHLYN.
Okay, to Oniava.
Yes, please.
Alrighty.
I don't see any either.
Okay. I think it's due to the app or your app not being updated. So let's see. Let's start with Aga Conbi. Which room would you be interested in joining?
I actually have to get off. I'm so sorry. Didn't get
Okay.
to bed.
Alexandra Avery. Amy Uka. Okay, Anne Joyer. Okay, but B.A. Alexander. Okay, Betty Boop. Okay. Let's see, Carol Abe. Okay, I see Jeff McKay, you have your hand raised up. Which room would you like to be in?
5, please.
Room 5. Okay, and Sydney Hall, you're room 4. Michael Dudley, room 3. J. Michael. Okay, do we have Roger? Roger here in the room? Or John? Okay. Does anyone have a preference? I will start assigning people rooms.
Yeah, I have.
Chris Nelms would like room 3, please.
Okay.
Julie Natari would like room 4. Mary
And
Lou?
here would like 1 Kailua Road.
Mary Lou would like Ku'ule, Kailua Road.
Julie Pleasanton would like Oniava.
Libby Tomar would like number 4, Oniava.
Isa Fisher would like Kailua Road.
Mark Pelori would like DOT.
Donna Wong would like room 6.
Thomas Roberts would like 2.
Okay, Anna Roberts, what is your name written as Anna Roberts? Okay, is everyone else, I will be assigning you to a random room if that's okay.
I would like to be in room number 2, please.
Okay, Polly, you'll be in room number 2.
Robert Gratz to room 3, please.
Okay, Robert, room number 3.
Come over here and
Speedo Stan, room number 3.
4, please.
Okay, Speedo stand, room number 3. And I apologize, who was the last one who spoke?
Roylene McDonald to Oneava, please.
Oneava. Okay.
Sue Brown, number 2.
Sue Brown for number 2.
Thank you.
Any more requests before I start assigning random rooms? Okay, I will be assigning rooms. Hi, Chad. You're in the middle of the breakout room session. So we're discussing the streets. Right now, people are broken down into Kailua Road, Ku'ule, Kalaheo, Oneava, South Kainalu, State DOT projects. Which room would you like to be a part of? Oh, sorry, you muted.
It's going to end in 12 minutes here.
We're still collecting input from the community. So actually we still have like 20 more minutes. So if you want to be a part of the room, I can assign you.
And if I missed something, can I submit comments later or something?
We'll be posting everything here. So from the recordings to the plans in our website.
Yeah. So if I missed it, too late to comment on stuff.
Oh, you can still comment. I can still assign you to a room and you can listen in and also provide your comments.
Okay. Shall I run that by me again?
We have,
Kalaheo.
yeah, the first room is Kailua Road. The second one is Ku'ule. The third one is Kalaheo. The fourth one is Oneava. Fifth is South Kainalu. and number 6 is state DOT projects.
Oniava.
Oneava. Okay, let me assign you the. Okay, you'll be going there soon.
Thank you.
Hello, Rosemary. We're currently in the breakout room sessions. If you can unmute and let me know which room you want to be in. Right now we have Kailua Road, Ku'ulei, Kalaheo Avenue, Oneava, and South Kainalu, as well as a state DOT project breakout room. Rosemary? I could see your chat. Which room would you like to be a part of? Let me run the options to you again. We have Kailua Road, Ku'ulei, Kalaheo Avenue, Oneava, South Kainalu, and state DOT projects. Oh, okay, thank you. Hi, Gary and AJ.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you put me on Oniava, please?
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, and this is Gary.
Yeah, I'm with the, can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm with the Kailua Neighborhood Board, and I've asked many questions of you in the chat room.
Oh.
When will you get back to answering those questions?
We actually have monitors for the chat room. My role is not to look over the chat room. It's more for technical functions, in this case, running.
So will you forward my chat to those people? Because I sent it to you direct, being the host.
Yes, we have the chat being recorded, and we also have someone saving our chats.
The only reason I was concerned is on your polls, you're not telling us how many out of the 247 people are voting. So you're just giving us percentages of the answers that you're getting, but you're not giving us a percentage of how many people are actually voting.
Okay. Yeah, normally we have around 70% of the voters voting. That is the threshold Lindsay measures it at. So around 70 to 75% input, and then that's when we collect our data.
Because I was just looking at the 2020 United States Census population for Kailua, and we're going to hit 45,000 people in that census.
Yes.
So even if you take all the participants that participated tonight, and then you take that 70% voting, you're at not even a small percentage of the population of Kailua. So I was just curious on how you base all of this complete streets and changes and all this based on less than a 2% or a little bit more than that of the population of Kailua.
Actually, we sent out postcards to every zip code and the address. So around 18,000 postcards were sent out. And this is the turnaround. So we have around 200 people attending. So this is more turnout than the community meetings.
I see. And
Yeah.
but still, that's a very small percentage of the total population.
But we try to reach out to the community. This is one method. Obviously, we'll hold more meetings if needed. But at this time with COVID, this is the best, I guess, way to engage with the community.
Yeah, I get that. Let me start my video. There we go.
Can you put me in the only other room, please?
Oh, I'm sorry, AJ. Let me just put you there right now.
You have a good point there, Gary, by the way.
Okay. And then I have a 3928994. Is that also you, Gary, or is that another person? Okay. So do you still want to remain in the main room, or I can also assign you to a breakout room, Gary? Since
I wanted to chat with the officials, so that would be you or the other co-hosts. Are any of them available?
The co-hosts are right now leading their own breakout rooms. If you want to talk to Lindsay, I'm part of Bell Collins Hawaii, so I'm pretty much assisting her with the technical parts, but she does the planning and everything. And then we have Renee, who's with Department of Transportation Services with the City and County of Honolulu. And I think she is managing, if not mistaken, either Ku'ule. Yeah, she is in the Ku'ule room.
Okay.
And then
one of my, I have a couple rationalities that I don't understand. Is like, I get very annoyed when the people do, these polls, and we were all roped in Hawaii into the rail situation by, we only had two choices as voter, heavy rail or light rail. Politically, they never had a no rail, which a lot of people believe would have been a greater percentage of the other two. So we would have never had this stupid rail project. So I'm always concerned when a poll is done. A couple of yours were really good tonight. It did give a choice of you want nothing, but that's another important factor. So when you do polls in the future, up on top, you could say how many people voted, and then always give the public a choice of, I don't want anything. Just leave it the way it is. It's fine. I'm seeing a trend in government where the great saying of the need of the many outweigh the need of the few. And we seem to be breaking that rule constantly. So maybe, I never see any statistics on how many actual people are registered bikers on our side of the island. How many people, what's the poll on how many people really walk on our unimproved sidewalks? What is the main reason we have unimproved sidewalks? In my investigation on that, it was because they didn't want to pay for storm drains in Kailua. So when you don't have unimproved sidewalks and you don't have curbs, the water just runs off and goes into the sand, trickles down under the earth. So if we start putting in these curbs and these other improvements, how is that going to change the storm drain situation? Which, by the way, that meeting is like coming up very shortly, this coming week. So I use another analogy. It seems like every single time we pave a road, a couple months later, another utility is digging it up. And I've been here since 1974, and over that period of time, there's been promises that the Board of Water Supply, HACO, the phone company, all these other utilities would all get together and do all this work before we dug up the road, but they don't. So that's a problem. The other problem is I've talked to city inspectors, And we usually only put down at the most 2 inches of asphalt. All across the mainland, they put 4 inches down. So we're constantly repairing our roads, make work projects instead of doing them one time right. And so that one time right to me would be, the proper places for people to walk, the proper places for bicycle. Kailua also, one of their major issues is how much of this work is being done for tourists. If we didn't have any tourists in Kailua, which we don't want, how much of this bike path, road improvements, traffic would we really be having to spend all this extra money on? So I never seen any answers on these questions, and when I look at your wonderful pictures of how you want to improve Kailua, it always seems to me that the areas that we want to improve are improvements for tourism and not really for local people at all. So that's just some of my opinions. I've been on neighborhood board over here for 9 years. I was on Aolike's board for 9 years. I'm 70 years old. I have a lot of perspective. I've lived in 5 different places in Kailua over the years and other parts of the island. And I just see some, this town was never designed for these mainland types of improvements. Now, if you want to do what they've done in many mainland areas where they use condemnation, take entire houses away from the street, which is like the kiss of death here in Hawaii, that would make some logical sense, but you'd never get it done. So we try to make these, in my mind, poor choices. Like I drove on the Pali Highway and those plastic things that they put there to slow down the traffic and everything?
Yes.
They're replacing them weekly because people are hitting them and taking them out. So, I don't know where it's going to go, but a lot of the things that I see today on these plans make no sense to me. I was just trying to get my point across as somebody that's looked at a lot of this stuff. I've driven every road in Kailua over the years. And one of the things that you don't talk about is making Kalaheo one way and Oniava one way. One way of traffic in each direction. Making a big loop out of the town. I think that that's a choice that doesn't get investigated very much.
You raise good points, and these are something you should bring up in the breakout rooms. And I encourage you to join one, as we don't want to.
I just didn't know which one to join because I'm interested in all the roads that you talked about tonight. And Oniava is actually in my district, and so is Kalaheo Highway. And that whole thing of a roundabout by Akahi Shopping Center, that's like my neighborhood. So those areas are areas that are more important to me than Lani Kai or downtown Kailua or whatever. But you didn't have a group that was those. I either had to go into Oniava or I had to go into North Kalaheo, and I really didn't have a choice there. So
actually, I can put we have an extra room, which you can voice your concerns. We have at least 2, one representative from DTS and a traffic engineer there. So let me just place
you.
you.
Great place.
Yeah.
By the way, I really admire Bell Collins. I had a meeting with them before they upgraded the Kailua sewage treatment plant. And some of your representatives from your company came up to my property because my property is very high up.
Yes.
And they get a bird's eye view of the sewage treatment plant to take pictures. And they were both from the mainland and they were very nice people. And so anyway, you're working for a good company.
Awesome. That's great to hear. I'm really happy to represent the company too. But thank you for your kind words. I will go ahead and place you in room number 7. Okay, Gary?
Thank you. Aloha.
Aloha. Okay, we'll have everyone joining us in 10 seconds.
I don't know if they finished my. Hello?
Hi, Elaine, you're back in the main room.
Oh, okay. I was talking in the breakout room, but I guess I got interrupted.
Yeah.
So now what?
We'll wait to hear back from Renee and Lindsay to close up the meeting. And then meeting
Okay, is
details will
everybody
be
back?
provided.
Oneo?
Yes, everyone should be here in the main room.
Okay, can you pull up the slide that shows our website and the email address for comment? Thank you. Okay, so thank you everybody for all of your time tonight. I know we shared a lot of information. And of course, we want to make sure you guys can go eat dinner. Otherwise, I'm sure we could talk for several more hours. We will be posting all the proposed concepts onto the Kailua Complete Streets website this evening. And we certainly look forward to getting additional comments from you guys. There's an email address listed here where you can submit your comments. I just want to, remind everyone that we are very early in the discussions for a lot of these improvements. So, we certainly, tonight's meeting is one piece of information, and we will continue to work with the community. Here's our project website here, honolulu.gov/complete-streets/Kailua. And we also have a presence on Facebook and Instagram if you're interested in that. And then we just want to close, with this nice traffic signal box here that someone from the Kailua community really took the initiative to create a little more beauty on our streets and try to create a sense of pride. And so we hope we can just pick up on that community dedication. And even though some of us may disagree on what the specific solution is, I think everybody just really has the community's interest in mind. So thank you all for sharing this evening. And with that, I think we'll wrap up.
Could we know what the next steps will be?
Yeah, so we're going to look at the feedback that we got. Like I said earlier, we typically implement a lot of this stuff with paving projects, and we don't have a lot of paving coming up in Kailua. The streets are actually in pretty good shape compared to other spots of the island. So we're probably going to be looking at doing a standalone project with city or state funds. So we're going to be prioritizing probably one corridor for that. So it was very helpful to see, where people think we should work first. Seemed like Kailua Road and Akule Road were sort of the primary areas. I know I'm also very concerned about the pedestrian crossings on Oneava. I know the bike lanes are very controversial there. We probably won't start with the most controversial project, but I do think we need to get some improvements out there at those uncontrolled crossings. So we will continue to communicate with everybody about how we're moving forward.
So the survey results, the survey from the 200 people in here, that's going to be, how will that information be used in your decision points?
I think we will weigh pretty heavily on some of that survey. We typically see the most vocal people tend to be the opponents of projects, and a lot of people who are supporters do tend to be pretty quiet. Kind of the vocal minority. So we really do like that kind of polling because it empowers everyone to have an equal voice, whether they feel comfortable standing up and talking in front of everybody. I've seen a lot of requests to go to neighborhood board as well. So we'll certainly follow up and have a presence there once we kind of figure out what we're gonna propose to move forward with first.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep, thank you everybody for sharing all your thoughts. And Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Aloha.
You, very informative.
Aloha.
Renee, are you guys gonna close the room?
Thanks, it was great.
I think we'll leave it open for a bit just so we can capture the chat and everything for a few minutes.
Yep, I did leave a
Thank you.
chat. I just wanted to make sure I could follow up with somebody directly on behalf of the Hawaii Tourism Authority. So I just want to make sure that it gets captured. Thanks.
Kalani, I can send you my email in the chat.
Perfect, thanks.
E aloha e Kalani.
Aloha no, pe'oi.
Mai kai peo.
Luhi wau.
Luhi.
Ana ke
Mahalo no
kai.
ko hele mai ana.
E ali pilikia. Mahalo no ke ia hui ana. I'll bother you guys later.
Dude, absolutely. I still want to talk about, transit and how we, it's super important to talk about that. Yeah, but we know you guys get some stuff on the burner right now.
Just a few things.
Yeah, bye-bye. I mean, bye-bye soon, not bye-bye like undefined bye-bye. Yeah.
Totally.
Okay, my guy.
Hui ho.
Hui ho.
Renee, how long do you want to keep the rooms or the presentation open for?
You can close the presentation, I think, and as long as you've got what you need from the chat and the recording and everything, I think we're pal for tonight.
Umeo, do you have the recording? I do have the recording. It's cloud recording. I think there's some people left over who hadn't gotten a direct response. If you want to unmute yourself and state your inquiries. We can have an open discussion.
It's pretty late. Let's close, but can people reach out to us personally? We're happy to discuss by email or phone if people have issues. So just send us an email and let us know if you want us to give you a call. We're happy to do that.
I put the email and the website in the chat so you can copy that for further conversations. Thank you.
Yeah, thank
All
you,
right.
Belt
Thank you,
Collins
ladies.
team, for logistics on the Zoom. Really awesome work.
Nicely done.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I'm super happy about this, but we're doing really good at Zoom now. Like, we've all gotten super good at Zoom, everybody.
Good.
Yeah, and you're getting a lot of participation, which is great. I think that helps a lot. Yeah.
We've found new ways. So congrats to everybody.
Hey, before we leave, can all those who have your screen, I'll just take a screenshot of everyone smiling. So just smile at your screen. Hold on, okay. Keep smiling.
Where are you?
I don't have a camera, sorry. Thank you, everybody. I got a screenshot. All right, thank you. I'm going to close out the meeting soon. So
Thanks,
mahalo.
everyone. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Mahalo, stay safe.